Today is another day of Indiana Fever drama. And y'all know y'all wondering, John, where's the drama coming from? Well, today was a press conference day, and I guess everybody missed what Aliyah Boston had to say. Aliyah Boston wasted no time calling out the team, but I think subliminally she was calling out Stephanie White. Now, we know Stephanie White has been running his motion offense, and for the life of me, it is not working. We're talking about the Fever damn near losing to the Connecticut Sun. Do you guys know the Connecticut Sun is the worst team in the entire...
The words left her mouth like a physical strike. Aliyah Boston didn't just share her thoughts. She dismantled the current state of the Indiana Fever in front of every camera in the room. For weeks, the tension had been building behind closed doors, but now the Star Center was making it public. She wasn't just talking about a loss. She was calling out a system that feels like it is rigged against its own players. The air in the room vanished as she addressed the elephant in the room that Stephanie White has tried so hard to hide. This was the moment everything changed for the franchise.
The Fever damn near losing to the Connecticut Sun. Do you guys know the Connecticut Sun is the worst team in the entire WNBA? Now, granted, they beat them, but only by that much. And I'm here to tell you, it is not a good look moving forward. I don't know why do they keep putting themselves in these type of situations, but I don't believe it's the players intentionally doing it. I believe it is Stephanie White's system that she's been running since Vanderbilt, that every coach in the WNBA has a master book to. I mean, they have a cheat code.
Stephanie White has been running a motion offense that critics claim is a relic of her Vanderbilt days. It worked once, but the rest of the WNBA has the cheat code now. Every move the Fever make feels like a rerun that every other coach has already watched 1,000 times. They are calling it Connecticut Sun 2.0, but without the wins to back it up. When Aliyah Boston stepped to the mic, she did not name names, but the message was loud and clear. The system is broken, and the players are the ones paying the price on the hardwood while the coaching staff clings to an outdated playbook.
That she's been running since Vanderbilt, that every coach in the WNBA has a master book to. I mean, they have a cheat code to Stephanie White. You guys got to think, Stephanie White has been running the same damn motion offense, all of these small ball type situations since Vanderbilt. She ran it in Connecticut. She ran it last year, and she's running it pretty much this year, bro. Sometimes she running a read and react offense, but for the most part, bro, Stephanie White is running the same system. This is the Connecticut Suns 2.0, and I'm telling you, Connecticut had a vault full of all of Stephanie White plays because
the practice court became a scene of absolute dread when Raven Johnson collapsed during an intense sequence involving Caitlin Clark. It was not just a stumble. It was the kind of moment that makes a whole stadium go silent. As she clutched her left ankle, the realization set in that the team's foundation was cracking. This was a shocking blow to a roster already reeling from internal conflict. Seeing a key player go down in the final moments of a media-viewed practice is the ultimate nightmare. It happened in the blink of an eye, leaving the coaching staff scrambling for answers.
2.0. And I'm telling you, Connecticut had a vault full of all of Stephanie White plays because they knew everything, bro. I mean, for them to even be able to score over 100 points on the Fever is bad, bro. Like, do you guys not know how bad this is? But I'm done talking. Let's not waste any time. Let's check out this damn press conference. That's what we finna look at right now. Released a few hours ago, and I listened to a little bit of it. And I say, Aliyah Boston may be on to something.
Yeah, I think we're still working on that part, not putting ourselves in that situation, but I'm super proud of us. I mean, closing games, it doesn't always have to be pretty, and I think it just also gives us different things to look at in the film room.
The connection between Raven's injury and the intense pressure surrounding Caitlin Clark is where the real controversy begins. Clark is being listed as probable, but the physical toll of carrying this team is becoming impossible to ignore. Fans are terrified that the mounting injuries are a direct result of the frantic, disorganized system they are being forced to play in. It is a high-stakes game of chicken with the health of the league's biggest stars. Every time Clark hits the floor, the collective breath of the basketball world hitches. They are playing on the edge of a cliff.
Then some player off the bench just explode on them. It boils back to Stephanie White's offense. To Stephanie White's defense. But she's supposed to be just such great defensive coach, but every game you can clearly tell that they are preparing for superstar players, starting players, but it's always a no-name bench player that just destroys them defensively. So I don't know if it's a film issue to where they're not looking at the proper film on all the players, or they just get a select group of players and say, we're going to focus on these 4 or 5 players. But
Aliyah Boston's words were calculated, but cutting. She talked about not putting ourselves in these situations, a direct hit to the game management that has seen lead after lead evaporate. She did not hide behind excuses or cliches. Instead, she emphasized that the team needs to stop the bleeding before it is too late. When she spoke about the film room, you could feel the frustration bubbling under the surface. It is one thing to watch mistakes on a screen. It is another to feel like you are being set up for failure by a defensive scheme that ignores the bench players who torch you.
Always a no-name bench player that just destroys them defensively. So I don't know if it's a film issue to where they're not looking at the proper film on all the players, or they just get a select group of players and say, we're going to focus on these 4 or 5 players. But I don't know, man. That's just something I've been noticing to where it's always a player off the bench or somebody that's really not that notable to just kick their ass, bro. And I think it boiled down to film.
Better. I think our starts have been a lot better, and that's something that we've been working on. I think our starts defensively to start the season were a little rough. Teams were putting up a lot of points, especially after that first.
Baffling part of the Fever's recent stretch is their inability to stop the no-names. While Stephanie White's defense focuses all its energy on the superstars, it is the role players who are having career nights against them. It happens every single game like clockwork. A bench player, who barely averages 5 points, suddenly looks like an all-star because the Fever's film study seems to have massive blind spots. Boston mentioned these lapses, but the reality is much more dire. It is a systemic failure to respect the full roster of their opponents, and it is costing them games.
During the final drill of the media viewing today, she walked off to the side with the trainer and was getting her ankle checked out. Now, that was earlier today, so if you guys pay attention right here to the right of the screen, you see Raven Johnson back there, right? And I got an update on that.
I think the passion kind of keeps you in it, especially if you want to win a game.
Stephanie White has been preaching about closing the fist, a metaphor for unity and strength under pressure. But Aliyah Boston's reaction to that phrase told a different story. When asked about it, she admitted they only started focusing on that a few games ago. It is a band-aid on a bullet wound. You cannot close a fist if the fingers are all pointing in different directions. The chemistry is not just lacking. It is being eroded by a series of heartbreaking losses that everyone saw coming. They are trying to find a rhythm in a song that is being played out of tune by the conductor.
Go on these runs as if they run a new defense. They're going to have to run a completely different defense because the defense that they're running is not working. It's definitely not working. But I got a Raven Johnson update. Chloe Peterson just tweeted this out about 2 minutes ago. She said that Raven Johnson is questionable with a left ankle injury for tomorrow's game against Toronto. She tweaked her ankle in the portion of practice during open media today. Caitlin Clark remains probable, and they're probably going to keep Caitlin Clark right there probable all season long. But let me know y'all thoughts about this. Keep them bells on. And until next.
Even Kelsey Mitchell could not stay silent about the lack of discipline. She pinpointed their Achilles heel as the constant fouling and the comfort they show when they should be aggressive. When a veteran like Mitchell talks about the team getting a little comfortable during a losing streak, it is a massive red flag. It suggests a culture problem that goes deeper than just missed shots. They are letting teams back into games because they lack the killer instinct required to survive in this league. It is a soft approach to a hard-nosed game, and it is driving the fans absolutely insane. The comparison to the Connecticut Sun is not just a coincidence. It is a haunting reality. The Sun supposedly have a vault full of Stephanie White's plays because she has been running the same sets for years. They knew every screen, every cut, and every rotation before it even happened. Scoring over 100 points on the Fever was not just a feat, it was an indictment. If your opponent knows your moves better than you do, you have already lost the battle before tip-off. This is not just a rough patch. It is a tactical bankruptcy that has left the Fever exposed to the entire league. The details of Raven Johnson's injury are starting to emerge, and they are not pretty. To see a player walk off with a trainer during a media session is the ultimate PR nightmare. It happened right in front of the cameras, making it impossible to hide the severity of the moment. The questionable tag for the next game against Toronto is just the tip of the iceberg. If Raven is out, the backcourt rotation becomes a jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces. The timing could not be worse, and the psychological impact on a team already struggling for confidence is absolutely devastating. Critics are screaming for a change in the defensive philosophy. Stephanie White is supposed to be a defensive mastermind, yet her team is consistently getting shredded. The read and react defense she occasionally sprinkles in feels like a desperate attempt to find a spark that just is not there. It is the same small ball situation that failed at Vanderbilt and is now failing in Indiana. The league has evolved, but the coaching staff seems stuck in a time loop. Boston's plea for consistency and level-headedness is a cry for a stable foundation that the current system does not provide. There is a growing narrative that the players' talent is being wasted by the rigid structure they are forced to play in. Aliyah Boston is a generational talent, a force of nature in the paint, yet she is talking about 5-minute games and mindsets instead of total dominance. When your best players are more worried about not separating than they are about winning, you have a major internal rift. The fierce defense Stephanie White puts up for her system is starting to look like a wall that is blocking her own players from reaching their full potential on the court every single night. Caitlin Clark is carrying the weight of a franchise, and every minor update on her status is treated like a national emergency. Keeping her as probable all season long feels like a strategic move to keep the fans invested, but the reality is she is playing under an immense physical load. If the system around her continues to crumble, the risk of burnout or injury becomes a terrifying possibility. The drama is not just about the wins and losses anymore. It is about the safety and longevity of the biggest stars in the game. One wrong move could derail everything they have built. Boston's comments about the film room were particularly telling. She suggested that the lapses are controllable, which is a polite way of saying they are not being prepared properly. If the team is watching film, but still getting beat by the same bench players every night, then the film study itself is flawed. Are they looking at the wrong things, or are they ignoring the warnings? It is a breakdown in communication between the scouts, the coaches, and the players. In a league this competitive, you cannot afford to have a single lapse, yet the Fever have them in bunches. Basketball is a game of runs, but the Fever seem to be on the wrong end of them more than anyone else. Boston noted that when teams go on a burst, the Fever do not know how to respond. They get hyped or nervous, and it shows in their scoring and their defense. This is where coaching is supposed to shine, through the ability to call a timeout, settle the troops, and break the momentum. Instead, the runs turn into avalanches before the team can even catch their breath. It is a recurring nightmare that has become the defining characteristic of their season. Kelsey Mitchell's focus on discipline is the most damning evidence of a locker room in trouble. She did not blame the refs or the schedule. She blamed the players' own lack of focus. Fouling in crucial moments is not just a mistake. It is a sign of a team that is playing on its heels. They are reacting rather than initiating. When you play with fear, you make mistakes, and when you make mistakes, you lose. The gap between their potential and their performance is widening every day, and the discipline needed to bridge that gap seems to be nowhere in sight for this squad. Looking ahead to the next game, the stakes have never been higher. With Raven Johnson's status in limbo and the team's confidence at an all-time low, every possession will be under a microscope. Their opponents are not going to show them any mercy. They have seen the film, and they know exactly how to exploit the holes in Stephanie White's defense. If the Fever do not find a way to close the fist for real this time, it could be another embarrassing chapter in a season that is quickly spiraling out of control. The fans are losing patience, and the clock is ticking fast. People keep pointing back to White's time at Vanderbilt as the source of the current issues. The motion offense was her signature, but what worked in the college game years ago is not translating to the modern WNBA. The players are faster, the scouting is better, and the margins for error are razor thin. By trying to recreate her past success with a different roster, she might be setting the Fever back years. Aliyah Boston's subtle call-out suggests the players are aware of this disconnect, even if they have to be careful about how they say it in public to the media. You can see it in their faces during the press conferences. The joy of the game is being replaced by the grind of survival. Boston talked about being proud of the effort, but there is a hollow ring to it when the results are not there. Chemistry is built on winning, and right now the Fever are starving for a victory that feels decisive. Instead of building momentum, they are just trying to keep their heads above water. The extra boost they get from role players is not enough to overcome the weight of a system that feels like it is dragging them down to the bottom of the standings. Every word spoken by Aliyah Boston is being dissected by analysts and fans alike. The narrative that she did not hold back is gaining steam, because it is the first time we have seen a real crack in the team's armor. Usually, players stick to the script, but Boston's honesty about their defensive lapses and the controllable nature of their failures was a breath of fresh air and a warning shot. She is a leader who wants to win, and she is clearly tired of the same old excuses being recycled after every loss. The spotlight is hot, and it is showing every single flaw. A team without a defensive identity is a team without a soul. Stephanie White's reputation was built on stopping people, but right now the Fever are a sieve. They allow teams to score at will, especially in the fourth quarter when the pressure is highest. If they cannot find a way to lock down and protect their leads, no amount of offensive brilliance from Caitlin Clark or Aliyah Boston will matter. They are building a house on sand, and the tide is coming in fast. The starts might be better, but the finishes are becoming legendary for all the wrong reasons in Indiana. The rest of the season will be a test of character for everyone involved. Will Stephanie White adapt her system to fit the modern game and her specific roster, or will she continue to double down on a philosophy that is clearly being exploited? Aliyah Boston has laid down the gauntlet. She is calling for accountability and a change in the way they approach every single minute on the court. The growing pains are over. It is time for results. If they do not change their trajectory soon, the drama we are seeing now will look like a quiet afternoon compared to what is coming next. At the end of the day, the Indiana Fever are at a crossroads that will define the franchise for the next decade. The clash between a legendary coach's rigid system and a group of stars who are hungry for more has reached a boiling point. Aliyah Boston's refusal to stay silent is the spark that could either ignite a comeback or burn the whole thing down. As Raven Johnson recovers and Caitlin Clark continues to fight through the noise, the real question remains: can this team find its heart before the system breaks its spirit? The world is watching.